Hi guys, how are you doing today? Welcome back to Random Lifestyle Vlog. If you're new here, my name is Paulina. This channel is all about beauty, and that includes skincare, fragrances, and makeup. And this last bit, makeup, is what we're going to do today. Today I'll be getting ready using products from P.Louise advent calendar that I unboxed recently. I think this advent calendar was generally quite liked by you guys, but at the same time there were quite many comments saying that the aesthetics is not too great. Like, it's very kind of like young, girly, everything pink and cute. I guess it's not everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, like, many of you were wondering whether the quality of these products is good, you know, considering the packaging. Many of you thought that this was more like a teenager brand. So today I'm going to test these products with you while getting ready, and let's see how good the quality of these products really is. Okay, a couple more things before we start. First of all, the P.Louise advent calendar was not 100% makeup, so I'm going to try and test or swatch as many products as possible, but bear in mind that there were like many more products included in this advent calendar that you're not going to see today. If you'd like to see the full content of the P.Louise advent calendar, I'm going to link to my unboxing video over here. I would also like to mention that there were some products, like typical daily use makeup products, that were not included in P.Louise advent calendar. So we didn't have any mascara, eyeliners, brow products, and obviously foundation and a concealer. So I'll be using these products off camera, not to confuse you guys. I obviously have my foundation and concealer on already. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Let's start. So the brushes I will be using for this makeup are the ones from the set that was actually included in the P.Louise advent calendar. This is the perfect blend, and this is like a set of brushes that are suitable for like face and eye makeup. So I think we have everything we need in here. I'm going to start with my eye makeup because I'm not really sure where I want to go with that. So I think it's going to be easier if I create my eye makeup first and then maybe just kind of like adjust everything else to it. So there were 3 eyeshadow palettes in P.Louise advent calendar. 2 of them were quads. So this is Sprinkle of Wishes, which is this one over here, and Magical Memories. And these are the shades, but these are not the palettes I'll be using today because we did also get this massive Can I Have a Taste palette. And look at that. This is what we're going to be using today. I would love to like swatch it all for you, but honestly I don't really have time or space to do so, but I feel like I definitely want to swatch a couple of shades before we start the makeup. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so here are 4 shimmer swatches, and oh my god, these are so good. I mean, they look pretty stunning, but the formula is just so good. It's very buttery, nicely pigmented. So yeah, these are amazing. And then we have a couple of like matte swatches, like kind of like randomly chosen. Like this palette is mostly mattes, and then we have like maybe around like 10 shimmers. These are also really nicely pigmented, not as pigmented as the shimmers, but like 90% there. And as for the formula, these are on a little bit like drier side. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not overly dry, but a little bit on the drier side. And I mean, technically there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just like a matter of personal preference. I actually prefer my eyeshadows to be a little bit on this kind of like a creamier side. Maybe because I have dry skin, I don't know. So yeah, that looks pretty promising. Let's test it out now. Okay, so this is going to be quite a statement look for, you know, the whole day. It's like 11 o'clock now in the morning. So let's just go ahead and recreate that on my other eyelid. I'm going to start with this shade over here. This is Funfetti and Games. This is probably the lightest shade in the palette. And whenever I get a shade like this, I always want to check if this is even going to show on my eyelid. So let's just apply it all over my eyelid with the brush E38, which is this one over here. And as you can see, it does show a little bit, kind of like brightens and evens out the skin on my eyelid. By the way, one thing that just crossed my mind like straight away, I don't really understand the idea of this mirror over here. First of all, this palette is quite large and it's quite uncomfortable to hold it like that anyway to do your makeup. And then on top of that, you have these holes in this mirror that makes it like even less usable. But that's not really a massive problem. It's just something I kind of wanted to point out because I did not really use much of that mirror anyway. So what I did next, I kind of wanted to gradually go towards like darker shades. So I decided to use the following shades. Just one, which is this one over here. Then I wanted to go with a little bit darker one, which is this Chef's Kiss over here. And then Bon Appetit. And to be honest, I could have skipped like at least 2 of those because these shades, I mean, they all showed on my skin. But at the same time, it seemed like an unnecessary step. They were like so close to each other that I don't really think that you necessarily need all those shades to create like a nice gradient. So that was my first thought. But I kind of have to admit that not all of these shades blend so nicely on my eyelids. They are lightly pigmented, but I kind of had to put a little bit more effort to kind of blend some darker shades so that they look like seamlessly on my eyelid. So I would say maybe there is a point of having all those shades here. I don't know. I think it definitely makes sense in case of like a makeup artist palette. For personal use, I don't necessarily think you need that many shades in your palette, but it can help with creating this kind of like seamless gradient. So let's go ahead and recreate what I did before. So I'm applying just one in my crease, and I don't know if you can see, but it shows just a little bit. You can definitely see that there's like a little bit different color, but nothing to kind of like write home about, right? So not really something that's necessary as a step. So we're going one step darker now, chef's kiss. It shows just a little bit. I'm not even sure if you're able to see that. I can see that from like very like up close, but it doesn't really look like there's like much of anything. It does show just a little bit. And then even darker, Bon Appetit. And to be honest, I could have gone like straight from the kind of like base shade to this one, and that would still be good. That would still be enough. I did not really need the other two steps. But I'm trying to do everything the way I did before so that you can see my whole like thought process and, you know, where my kind of opinions come from. So we're going towards like darker shades, and here's where I started struggling with blendability a little bit. So the next shade I'm going to use is this one over here, and this is Jingle Bells. And this shade did not really apply that well with kind of like a fluffy brush. I kind of needed something a little bit more dense, and there's no such brush in this set. I guess that's the problem with sets sometimes. Not everything is going to be the way you like it. So yeah, I'm going to use a little bit different, kind of like denser brush to apply this Jingle Bells now. And as you can see, the color definitely shows with no problem. But as I said, this shade is where I started struggling with blendability a little bit. It has a really nice pigmentation, but it does apply just a little bit patchy. Nothing really too shocking or bad. It's just something that's worth considering, because these darker shades require a little bit more patience, I would say. Okay, our next shade is this one over here, and this is Cake My Day. So we're building this color up. We're just kind of like trying to make it even like deeper and create this gradient. And same story here. This requires a little bit like more work, more patience. So it's just best to take your time and not rush anything. It's just, you know, you have to properly work with these shades to create like a really nice look. There are like certain shades that just kind of like blend themselves. Like you just apply them on your eyelid and you don't really have to work much, and it's still going to look nice. Here you will have to put some work, I'm not going to lie, but it can look really nice if you just take things slowly here. Okay, so the darkest shade of this makeup look is going to be this one over here, and this is Take Whisks. So there you go, and as you can see, this one is actually much darker than the previous shade I used. The difference was not that obvious just looking at the palette, but it is much darker, and we're just slowly kind of like building this color up. So if you compare my eyes now, you can see that, you know, this kind of a gradient, it goes like really smoothly here, whereas here it's just like the darker colors are kind of like cut off. I actually prefer this more like a gradient look. So I use this Bon Appetit shade over here to blend out this upper part of those, like, you know, darker shades. So there you go. I'm just applying it here all over my crease to kind of like blend everything out. And then I'm going to go a few steps up again to this one over here, which is just one, and I'm going to blend it even more. And on my lower lash line, I'm going to use this Bon Appetit like all over my lower lash line, and then I'm going to use this darkest shade over here, Take Whisks, and I'm going to apply it in my outer and inner corner. So I'm starting with Bon Appetit, and I'm just going to apply it all over here, and then I'm just going to apply Take Whisks in my kind of outer corner and kind of like connect this with my upper eyelid makeup, and a little bit of that in this inner corner here. So this is the matte part of makeup done. So now that I was actually prepared that these shades are a little bit like less blendable, and you know, you just have to take things slowly and kind of like blend just a little bit, apply a little bit, blend it out, not to go over the top. It was much smoother. I think if you are used to those like super blendable shades, you might get a little bit too heavy on like certain things, and then you just end up kind of like struggling. That's what I did. Okay, so let's finish it off with some shimmery shades. So I kind of wanted to combine those kind of like burgundy shades with some gold. So I used this Star Baker. That was the first shade I used in the middle of my eyelid. And I applied it with my fingertip, and yeah, this is like a really nice gold shade. Kind of like yellow gold. It's not like super pigmented. You have to apply a couple of layers for this color to be truly visible. So this is what it looks like, but then I decided I kind of wanted a little bit more kick. I wanted something like even more kind of yellow gold, and I decided to use this one over here, which is Left No Crumbs, and this one definitely packs the punch. It's much more visible and it's very pigmented. Both of these shades are actually really nice. It very much depends on what effect you're actually going for. Okay, so we're almost there. I'm going to use a little bit more of this Left No Crumbs shade in the middle of my lower lash line here. And then the final touch, I'm going to use a little bit of this shade over here, which is Oh Snap. And I'm going to use a little bit, just a little bit of that in my inner corner and on my brow bone. So as I said, just a little bit here, like nothing really too spectacular. And then some of it on my brow bone here. This shade is actually not particularly pigmented, so it looks really nice on a brow bone. It doesn't really make it look heavy. Okay, that part is done. We don't really have any mascara or eyeliner, so I'm just going to do these bits off camera. Okay, eyes done. I need to mention that we did have this set of like eyelashes in the advent calendar, and I was actually debating whether I should just put them on or not for the sake of this video, which is not something I usually do, but I think, you know, this as a daytime makeup is going to be dramatic enough even without those lashes, so I didn't really want to add to that. So yeah, I decided to keep it the way it is. Okay, time for our bronzer. We only have one bronzer palette, but we have 8 shades inside. These are the shades. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to pull off like every single one of those, but at least maybe 4 of them should be okay for me. Let me just swatch them all. So there you go, these are the swatches, and to be honest, I think I could pull off like most of these. Apart from maybe the last 2, because they are definitely too dark for my skin tone, even my summer skin tone. I think these over here would be quite a good match for me. The lightest shade are a little bit too light, but they still show on my skin a little bit, so I guess I could still use them as more like blushes, I guess. But yeah, the swatches actually look quite alright. This is definitely a palette that's more suitable for like a makeup artist versus like a single person, because there's always going to be something that you're not going to be able to use here. Anyway, I'm going to use the shade over here. It's a little bit more cool toned than this one, for example, and I think it's going to work out a bit better if I want to contour a little bit with this. So I'm just going to apply a little bit here, and as you can see, it is pretty pigmented. I'm going to use a little bit of my jawline as well to kind of accentuate it and make it look more chiseled, and some on my forehead as well, because my forehead is quite big. Okay, so it does blend really nicely. It is quite pigmented, so I think this, you can actually build that color up a little bit if you want to. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I also really like the fact that it looks pretty natural. By the way, if you're wondering, the brush I was using to apply my bronzer was F40. The slightly slanted one. Okay, it's time for our blush. So here we have like multiple options. So first up, we have this kind of liquid blush, which is the cheek of it in shade Baked Biscuit. And this one is actually really pretty, but I'm pretty sure I swatched it in my unboxing video, so I would like to try something else this time. So we also have this Sync Double Blush Duo in shade Nice and Iced, which pretty much means pink and pinker. But this is like a very kind of cool toned, almost like Barbie pink, which is not very flattering for my skin tone, so I'm not even going to touch that. But that is not everything. We also have these 2 blush palettes. Each of them I think has 8 shades, so let's have a closer look at them. So this is Take the Whisk, and these are the shades. And then we have It's the Icing on the Top. And I think this is our winner for today. These shades are going to suit my makeup a little bit better. I mean, both of these like large parts are really pretty, but I think the other one was very kind of like orangey, warm toned, whereas here we have more like pinky, like mauvey shades. Yeah, so let's give it a quick swatch. Alright, so these are the swatches of the blushes. The lightest one are like barely visible on my skin tone. But I would say all of these are alright. And I think today with this kind of like a very dark, intense eye makeup, I want to do something a little bit more toned down. So I think I'll just go with this shade over here. So the brush I'm using is F41, and I'm just going to apply it over here and a little bit, and drag it a little bit towards my temple. That's how I prefer to apply my blush, not necessarily on the apple of my cheek, but a little bit like higher. So I'm not going to lie, these blushes don't really seem particularly pigmented. I don't think there's much room to build up this color either. I mean, this is the kind of look I was going for. I wanted to have this very naturally looking blush, like nothing too visible, and it's fine for that, but this is pretty much barely visible on my skin. I don't think any of those three shades will actually show on my skin, so that's not ideal. I think if you have a skin tone that's like any darker than mine, then you know your options are even more limited. I still think it's a pretty shade. It looks very natural. As for the formula, it's nothing I would describe as like mind-blowing. It's okay. Okay, time for our highlighter. Here we have two options. So we have this liquid highlighter, Dream Droplets, and I'm not sure what shade is this. Oh, this is Pot of Gold, and again, this is something I swatched. I'm pretty sure I swatched it in the unboxing video, so let's leave that for now. But we also have this highlighter palette. This is Bake Your Move, and we have 4 shades here. So that's interesting. I mean, the bronzers were actually quite nicely pigmented. The blushes, I mean, the palette I tried, the pinkish palette, not too much. I think it was just more suitable for like lighter skin in general. But then look at these highlighters. I mean, this is crazy. Like, I think Ofra has highlighters that are that intense in pigmentation. And this is definitely not everyone's cup of tea to have a highlighter that is so reflective and like pigmented. For me personally, this is not my go-to option. I would just prefer something like more natural on a daily basis, but sometimes I feel like I want to sparkle a little bit more, and then I really like using products like that. I've also noticed that the sparkly products from P.Louise are usually so much more pigmented and kind of like creamier and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and use this second shade over here. This is more like a champagne-y tone, so that should actually complement my makeup nicely. So I prefer to apply my highlighter with like a smaller brush. I'm not sure which one of these will be good. I'm going to use the F42, and let's go ahead and apply it. Okay, so as you can see, this is very sparkly and very reflective and very pigmented. I probably chose the shade that is the least pigmented of them all, which I guess that's good because this is my day makeup, right? Not something I would usually go for, but here we are. So I'm obviously going to blend this highlighter out a little bit, but it's not as crazy as I thought it would be. I wouldn't say this looks extremely natural. I don't think it's even supposed to look extremely natural. It's more like a statement highlighter, but I guess the shade I chose is probably the most kind of like muted one, which I think I can pull it off during the day. Okay, so that's the whole face done. The only thing that is left are the lips. So as far as the lips go, we have a few options here. So one of them is something I'm not going to use today. I'm just going to show you. So we've got this On the Lips lipstick palette. The reason I'm not going to even open that or use it is because I generally do not use lip palettes. I just don't really like them. Like, I don't think there's like a specific reason for that. It's just something I never feel like tempted to use, so there's literally no point of me like even starting to use this palette because that's going to be like left there somewhere. That's definitely not going to get much love from me, so we're definitely not going to use that. We did not get any lipsticks, which is quite interesting, but we did get this Stay Shining lip oil. We have 2 lip drip kind of like lip glosses. There you go. And the best part is that we have some lip liners. So I'm definitely going to apply one of those lip liners to finish my makeup, and probably like some lip gloss on top of that. So let me just swatch them first for you. Okay, so the first shade is Luscious Love. So this is like a really nice cool toned brown. That's definitely not going to be my choice for today. By the way, I have tried some of the lip liners before and they have really lovely quality. Like, they're not too like hard and scratchy, but they're also like not too soft. So they're like, there's kind of like a sweet spot in between, which is perfect in my opinion. Next up is Sugar Coated, and this one has more like a kind of like neutral peachy undertone. Next one is this kind of like a rusty shade over here. This is Bake My Biscuit. Or is it more like a gingerbread shade? I don't know. Then we have Truly Scrumptious. This is the dark one over here. Then we have this really nice burgundy shade, and this is Treat Week. And then the last one is You're Yummy. So I think for me, it's down to between the last 2 shades, which is You're Yummy and Treat Week. They're both really pretty, but I think I'm going to go with something lighter, which is You're Yummy. So I'm going to fill my lips a little bit with this shade as well. I Okay, so there's that, and I'm going to finish it off with adding one of those like lip glosses. So we have Lip Drip and shade Just a Drizzle and Pour It Up. The Pour It Up one has this proper yellow gold finish, so maybe that would go well with my eyelids. I just kind of like try and swatch it. It's not particularly pigmented, it just has these kind of like yellow gold sparkles inside. And this is the other one. This is a very similar situation. Again, not pigmented, but just, you know, this is the one over here. This one has more like a silver finish. So yeah, I think it only makes sense to use this Pour It Up with like kind of gold flakes. And I'm just going to apply it on my lips. And there you go. This is my makeup for today, using mostly products from a P.Louise advent calendar. So what do you guys think? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have you bought this advent calendar? Have you tried these products? Do you have an opinion about like P.Louise cosmetics? Do you think they're good, or are you not convinced? Thank you very much for watching. For more makeup related videos, check these ones over here. I'm going to see you very soon. Take care. Bye.